The Second World War was the most terrible thing that happened in human history. But at the same time, people brought to the brink of destruction turned out to be especially inventive in everything related to weapons. Today we will remember a phenomenon known as kamikaze, about Japanese pilots who turned their planes into huge guided bombs. Although kamikazes appeared in the mid-20th century, their history began in the 13th century, when the Mongol Empire attempted to invade Japan. The Mongols had no experience in naval battles and also did not know how to build ships. Therefore, a significant contribution was made by Chinese and Korean sailors, who at that time were already under the rule of the Mongol Khan. Together, a huge flotilla was assembled, which remained the largest in human history until the Normandy landings in 1944. The Mongols twice threw their entire fleet into the archipelago of the Land of the Rising Sun, but each time all their ships were taken by surprise by a terrible typhoon, which destroyed most of the fleet, and the surviving ships were captured by samurai. The Japanese called this typhoon kamikaze, that is, divine wind. He had a huge impact on the self-awareness of the Japanese people and remained in their memory until the outbreak of World War II. However, it is interesting that the term kamikaze itself was first applied to suicide pilots not in Japan, but among Japanese translators into English. Therefore, at first, it was widespread only in the Western world, but quickly gained such popularity that after the war it began to be used in Japan itself. And during the war itself, the Japanese preferred to use the term takotai, which served as an abbreviation for the long phrase Divine Wind Special Strike Force. Despite the heroism that Japanese propaganda endowed on the kamikazes, they appeared more out of despair than out of noble impulses. By the end of 1944, Japan had lost a significant part of the previously captured territories. Its military resources were coming to an end. There were not enough planes, experienced pilots, or time to train them. It was under such conditions that one of the most fanatical commanders of the Imperial Navy, Vice Admiral Takejiro Onishi, decided to create an experienced squad of suicide pilots during the Battle of the Philippines. Their task was to break through enemy air defenses and bring down their planes filled with bombs and explosives directly on enemy ships. The Vice Admiral assumed that this would allow even novice pilots to cause serious damage to the enemy. A person was only required to show courage in the face of death, which historically was not a problem for the Japanese. Indeed, the effectiveness of the first kamikazes was so high that it slightly covered the lost aircraft. The first kamikaze detachment, which consisted of only a dozen pilots, disabled 7 American aircraft carriers in one day, hundreds of crew members were killed, and dozens of aircraft were destroyed. Initial successes led to the fact that at the beginning of 1945, detachments of kamikaze pilots began to form en masse throughout Japan. The practice of suicide bombers has also found its application in watercraft. Boats and guided torpedoes, also filled with explosives, were created. State propaganda did everything to give the kamikaze an honorable status. They developed their symbols in the form of a white scarf and a Japanese flag wrapped around their heads. Kamikazes even received special tanto daggers, which were used in the past to commit harakiri. They symbolized the samurai spirit and commitment to tradition. But kamikaze achieved particular success during the Battle of Okinawa in the spring of 1945. Then suicide pilots disabled more than 100 enemy ships. They became a real thunderstorm and fear for American sailors. In addition to material damage, the factor of psychological pressure was of great importance. The Allies saw not just pilots, but people who were ready, without the slightest hesitation, to give their lives for the victory of Japan. However, even though in the first months after their appearance, the kamikaze caused serious damage to the Allied Navy, they quickly lost their importance. Every day, the Japanese industry faces an increasing shortage of resources. In the last months of hostilities, there were at least 3 volunteers per kamikaze plane. This led to the fact that kamikaze began to use the most primitive aircraft, which had old engines and poor control, and the landing gear fell off immediately after takeoff to reuse them on another aircraft. At the same time, serious changes occurred in the American Navy. The ships were successfully converted to repel kamikaze attacks. Combat tactics also changed to take into account the new emphasis. Both the number and radius of naval aviation have increased. All this, together with a significant decrease in the technical characteristics of Japanese aircraft, led to the fact that they became easy targets, and 90% of all kamikaze pilots got lost in the air without any opportunity to achieve their goal. The end of the war was near. Finally, on August 15, 1945, the day Japan surrendered, Vice Admiral Matowagaki, along with 7 other pilots, made his last kamikaze mission, dying ignominiously near Okinawa. Under pressure from the victors, kamikazes were banned from use in Japan, but to this day they remain in the memory of many people as an example of fanatical patriotism and reckless courage. Thanks to everyone who watched this video to the end. To find out about the latest releases, you just need to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. Also, leave your thoughts in the comments and give it a thumbs up. See you soon.